And here we are, Chapter 10, the Baroque Orchestra. The basis of the Baroque Orchestra starts with this guy right here. This is my bass. This is a modern bass, violin, string bass, double bass, has lots of names, schizophrenic instrument. It's the basso, part of the basso continuo during the Baroque Orchestra. That along with the harpsichord. Here's a pretty bad harpsichord sound, but there's my harpsichord. Again, a modern harpsichord is not going to accurately do it. So the basso continuo, along with the harpsichord, make up the basis of the concerto and the concerto grosso. The ripieno being the basso continuo with other string instruments together, making the larger section of the concerto grosso. So the ripieno, as opposed to the concertino, made up the concerto grosso. So I know that sounds a little confusing, but again, the ripieno, big section, lots of people playing all together. The concertino, small group of instruments playing together. Those two are opposing each other, and that's where we get the term concerto. In the Baroque period, this is a little difficult to understand in using with our understanding of modern technology, but the technology at that time did not allow instruments to play loudly and softly the way we do today. So the loudest this bass can play and the softest this bass can play is different than the basses that were made back then. They just weren't really too good at making loud or soft sounds. Same with the keyboard. The harpsichord at the time, if I played the harpsichord at that time, the Baroque harpsichord, it couldn't play loud and soft. The harder I pressed this key didn't matter in terms of the loudness or softness of it. So to achieve dynamic changes in music, composers had to add or subtract instruments from sections. So if they wanted one section that was louder than another section, then they added instruments. So if there was a ritornello, which had repeating sections, the ritornello would have the ripieno and the concertino playing together at the same time. A contrasting section may just have the concertino playing together. Okay, so let's listen to a little bit of the bass, a little bit of the harpsichord, and you get a rough idea of what the concerto did. And also I'll talk a little bit about improvisation. So this is just a rough idea of what the bass would do in a typical concerto, and I'll play something that would be from a slower movement of a suite. Okay, so the bass's job is to not really do anything too exciting, is to hold down the low end. And the same with the harpsichord. The harpsichordist's job was to play music that was supporting the rest of the ripieno. And occasionally, especially when Bach was doing the writing, occasionally the harpsichord would go off with a lot of different flowery, there's that term again, and virtuosic sounding things. Okay, and so you'll hear that in the music as well. We're going to listen to Vivaldi's Four Seasons, Le Quattro Stelle. How do you pronounce that? I got to remember how to pronounce that. I don't want to do it in front of you until I get the pronunciation correctly. Brandenburg Concerto No. 5. The harpsichord is really having fun with that one, and that's a very enjoyable piece of music. You will be hearing the Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and in that you will hear the wonderful example of ritornello form. Should be pretty obvious. If you listen to the themes in that music, it should be pretty obvious how to distinguish between the concertino and the ripieno. And I think what I'll do is actually a listening example on that, just to make things a little easier for you. And so perhaps the next thing I'll post would be an audio presentation of just that. So characteristics of Baroque music, and 111, know these, okay? Because it's going to help you with the listening of the Baroque music during this week. Texture is homophonic and polyphonic. Okay, sometimes both textures at the same time, especially when we're listening to the Hallelujah chorus. If you hear that Hallelujah chorus, there is a section in there where the entire chorus is singing exactly the same words at exactly the same time. For example, Lord of Lords, King of Kings, those words are exactly the same time. In fact, the orchestra is doing that with the entire chorus. Homophonic texture, polyphonic in other parts as well. Tonality, major and minor system, as we talked about. No more church modes, strictly major and minor. Rhythm is very clearly measured. There's no free rhythms that are happening. Everything is very measured. It's either in duple, triple, or quadruple time. The type of forms that we're going to be seeing and the type of vocal works that we're going to see are opera, oratorio, passion, and mass, which we talked about. And the instruments that you're going to be seeing, instrument styles will be fantasia, prelude, toccata, fugue, suite, which has been talked about as well. Okay, so that's going to do it. I think as you guys come up with some questions or concerns, I will certainly create more things, but I just wanted to highlight some of the things in this chapter. And that's going to be it for now. Program music, I should talk about that a little bit, the difference between program and absolute music. Vivaldi's Four Seasons was the first program music that was created. In other words, prior to that, everything was absolute music. You wrote music that was designed as a suite. So you wrote a dance. So the jig at the end of a suite was a dance. And so you wrote music for that purpose. Absolute music. So the music had a purpose for that. Well, Vivaldi's was the first to actually express something other than a designated reason for having it. So his music was designed to express the beauty of spring, summer, fall, and winter. So when you hear the music that is spring, it should sound springy. It should sound like birds chirping. It should sound like things growing and the world coming back to life after a long winter. It's kind of a radical concept to do that, and that's where we get that. We think today, well, that we hear that all the time. We have music that imitates things in nature all the time. That's true, but back then it wasn't all that. It wasn't the norm. That's for sure. So if there are any other concerns, let me know via email or phone call, and I will post more videos and or answer questions via email or phone. Okay? Ta-ta for now.